one of the most asked questions about Hijra is how you're going to sustain yourself once you leave your home country.
My opportunities were limited. And if you are working a job, again, nothing necessarily wrong with starting there, but it's not necessarily the best place to finish when you look at the stats. So when it comes to Hijra, I knew that I couldn't drive a school bus somewhere else in a different country. No, I couldn't be moving appliances. No, I'm not going to be doing CNC machine work or competing in the local economy. So I need to do something different.
Right.
And then I experimented, and alhamdulillah, we're gonna get into some of those details and some of those options. But the difference for me than many people say, oh, it's hard. Here's the facts. Everything is hard till you do it. The thing is that many times we don't reflect on our lives and our successes. See, learning how to walk was hard, but you don't remember how to do that. I mean, you remember how to do it, but you don't remember your struggle. Learning how to drive a car. It was hard at first. How to get on a bike. You might have scraped a knee. You might have cried. All this stuff was hard at first. And the first time you do it's going to be the worst because it's your first. But you're going to get better over time. That's the point. So if we understand the structure, tie your camel to trust in Allah. That's the main part. It's not supposed to be easy. We're going to be tested in all these types of things. Now, the good part is you choose your hard. What's harder for me was not being able to make Hijra. What's hard for me is not doing something for the next generation. It's to allow them to sit and fester in the West, to go ahead with their agendas that they have for us. Because if you don't plan, you fail to plan, if you will, then you plan to fail. So that was harder for me to see. It was hard for me to see that I'm not even trying. I'm not taking the effort. That I'm thinking Allah Ta'ala is not going to make a way. That's an excuse. And I know that excuses are poor reasons to be useless. So if I could learn these same principles, principles don't stop. And principles work for Coach Nazir, but they're not going to work for you. Yeah, gravity is going to work for both of us, whether or not you believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Radiation, it's going to work whether or not you believe. Light, whether or not you believe in it, it's still going to work. So the difference is choose your hard. Either your hard is going to work, depending on somebody else, using your muscles, wasting a lot of your time, never really getting ahead, or learning better paths and ways to get things done to accomplish your ultimate goal.
Entrepreneurship to some people is intimidating. When you say you need to start a business or you should start a business, or to some people that seems far off. You mentioned earlier that you did drive a taxi, you did work in a factory, you did do these things, but something must have clicked inside to say it has to be something better.
One of the privileges of poverty, and I know that that's almost sound like an oxymoron, right? But one of the privileges of poverty is that you learn that it's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. So since my parents were limited and give me old information that didn't even work for them, they just didn't really know what to do. Thankfully, I was able to at least view somebody who had a semblance of financial freedom, which is my great uncle. He sold watermelons, came from down south, couldn't read or write in his 30s. Now he's a multimillionaire, owns hundreds of acres of land, owns a great business, a lot of real estate and so on, right? But he pulled me to the side one day when I was looking at these guys who came up to the watermelon stand. They had their jewelry on, the BMW and all this stuff. You could tell they were dope dealers. I'm on the south side of Chicago at the time, and he saw me looking at him, and after they left, he said, did I like the car? And I'm like, yeah, of course, that was nice. It's either a Beamer or a Benz, whatever. And he put me to the side, and he said, look, he said, I could buy 5 Rolls Royces cash. It's not about being flamboyant and showing all this stuff or showing jewelry, and it's not about any of that. It's about taking care of your family. He said, now, I couldn't read and write till I was in my 30s, but I can count money. That stuck with me. Because I didn't know anybody that, I didn't think I knew anybody that really had their finances together in that level. I was amazed back then, somebody making $10,000 a month, you know what I'm saying, thinking that was like big money. But I recognized I didn't have the same opportunity as many of the people that I went to school with, high school with or whatnot. They had either come from money or had different college funds and all that kind of stuff. So the privilege of poverty mean that I need to do something else. And I wasn't really interested in schooling. The way it's set up, John Taylor Gatto talks about it best in his book, Weapons of Mass Destruction. This is the teacher of the year for several years in a row. He talks about the conditioning that comes with schooling. And I'm gonna let the audience know right now, look, Mark Twain said it best in a quote. He said, never let schooling interfere with your education. So I had some mentors that saw more of me than I saw myself at the time after I had become Muslim. and I was open to learning and changing and raising my family differently. And they told me basically the same thing that was the very first part of Revelation. "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Read in the name of your Lord who created you. Now, of course, they didn't say that. They weren't even Muslims. But read. So I was told, look, there's this book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, I encourage people to read it. Now, the original version, not the current version that they change around and put other stuff in there and everything else, but the original version, especially because this is an entire chapter dedicated to the Prophet ﷺ, and it was dealing with making Hijrah and persistence. So that caught my eye that a book in the early 1900s that was written by Napoleon Hill, was commissioned by one of the first billionaires in the steel industry, Andrew Carnegie. He gave him access to 500 of his best friends and cohorts, I guess they're not necessarily best friends, but other rich folks. And his study over 20 years was to go ahead and amalgamate the principles that they had all across the board that made them successful. He came away with 13 principles. Now, wouldn't you like to know what 13 principles are? Or do you want to go ahead and spend 20, 25 years of your life interviewing other people to go ahead and do it? You know what I'm saying? I'm a strong believer in it's okay to copycat as long as you copy the right cat. So learning these lessons in a very short amount of time through a book like that, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so I had to invest in myself. That's all self-education. And it didn't cost anything. You could literally go to the library and get these books. But the difference is, my mentor asked me, he said, Nathir, what's the difference between somebody who's illiterate and somebody who chooses not to read? And he told me, well, the person who's illiterate, at least they have an excuse. Right. But the person who chooses not to read, meaning not to learn, right, they're being poor by choice, again, passing over opportunities repeatedly. So I knew that he said, you need to change your mind. And that's where it set me on a journey to be like, okay, I don't have all this other stuff, so what else is out there? Right. Hence, I started a journey, and when I saw that my great uncle was making all that money, and he was making multiple six figures from Memorial Day to Labor Day, talking about from May to June, just within a short span of a few months, I'm like, something has to give. And that's when I was like, I can do this, because it doesn't matter where you're from. I was told by the time you're 21, you'll be locked up or dead. Heard this over and over and over again until, of course, I became Muslim, changed my life around.